which you are so much committed in supporting us. And also, we are here today to bring you another new content. We are here to learn today about variables, if, else, and while loops. So in this case now, remember yesterday we did the hello world when we tried to explain to you how your C program, which stages does it has to undergo. That is from pre-processing stage, compilation stage, assembling stage, up to the linking stage, whereby you will now have the executable file. Now that you have known each and every process in which your program undergoes until you get an executable file, which is now readable, I will love to go and see what are variables. I believe in one way or the other you have heard about variables, and now you're asking yourself, what are variables? How can we create variables, and how are variables helpful in our C program? So here today, we are trying to take you through the variables, and here are some of the resources that we have been given to read, which I believe that all of us, you will try as much as you can to go through all of them. But in this video, we have tried to simplify all these resources, but I cannot say that we will go through all the resources, but we will try as much as we can to go through what we think that it will be necessary for today's assignment. And what I can say is that the first resource, that is everything you need to start with C, is that I can say is that this is one of the materials or the resources that we read yesterday, but also we have been asked to read it today. So, and then say that you don't have learned anything there, but make sure you read entirely fast and make sure you understand the slides, comments, data types, integer types, declaration, characters, arithmetic operators, variables, assignment, comparators, logical operators, if else, and while loops. So this is what you are required to understand in this particular resource. And then we'll talk about keyword and identifiers, integers, arithmetic operators, if statement, and if else statement. So this is what you will be required to understand. Okay, also we'll talk about the arithmetic operators in C, if else statement, if statement, and relation operators, logical operators, while loop, and while in C. So this, and also we'll talk about ASCII. You have to understand what is ASCII. ASCII is this is where we have come to understand that each character is represented. How is every character represented in the ASCII table? And all else we have to understand is that we will talk about if else and all this. Yes, this is what I believe that we will be required to know. Let me try as much as I can to ensure that all these are okay. So let me talk about this. Let me open this material. When I open this material, you will see that this is what you did yesterday. Everything you need to start to start C. So I will not go through each and everything here because you learned about it yesterday, but I will just skim through it just to help you understand some few concepts here and there. So allow me to, what is C? We say that C is a procedural language, meaning that every code has to be executed first of all from the main function. So what happened in C is that we can have as many functions in C, but the moment your program finds C, the main function, that is where your code will begin. Your code will begin from the main function. Then we come to a point where we're asking ourselves, what are comments? Remember we said yesterday that comments are not part of the code. Comments are just what you need to have your code. Okay, comments is what you need in order for you to be able to understand how the code works. Remember, we still have what we created yesterday, the hello world.c. Allow me to open this hello world.c so that we'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Comment hello world.c. So in this particular code, you will understand that we have include main entry point, that is main. We are just trying to describe that the main function is the entry point of our code, and then we have int main void. So this is the main function, and this is where our code begins. And then you notice that there is these lines here, and this is what we refer it as comments. So comments are part of the what enhance the readability of our code. And if in case that you are to give someone your code, if you are to share your code with someone, will those kind of individual be able to understand what your code means? Assuming that I create a software and I have a code of it, if I share the same code with my friend, will my friend be able to understand my code? That's the biggest question. If not, then it means that there is no good readability of my code. And also, if I create my own software and then I come back the next day trying to understand what I created the previous day and I cannot understand, then it means that I missed something somewhere. So comments are not part of they are not executed, but they help you to understand your code and ensure that what were you trying to do in each and every part of your code. I believe now you understand what comments are. There's a different way you can write comments. In C, there is different ways you can write comment. For example, you can see you can have comments as this one as what you call the multi-line comments. At the same time, you can write another different comment, which here we might not. Yes, let me just show you. Let me show you one. Let me have it here like that. Then I do this way. So I will say like this, and then I say single line comment like that. Yes, that's a single line comment in C, while the rest are multiple lines comment. Let's continue. We are done about comments. Let's talk about variables, which is the main part of our today's concept. So what are variables? Variables are, in this case, I refer as what we call the memory location. So memory location is that where memory location is that it contains something in it. It is a memory. It's like a bag that contains something. I always give an example of a box that contains some fruits in it. So it is a box. It contains fruits. So that box is what I refer as a variable. A variable, this is my container. It has something in it, and that is what I refer as variable. Then the biggest thing is, how can we create variables in C? So if I go back here to my code, allow me I will just manipulate this code, though I will not run at the end of the day, but I'm just trying to explain to you something. So in creating variables, you need to understand one thing is that you need to tell us what data type does that code variable contain. For example, if I say that int variable name, so it means that I am saying that I am trying to tell you that that variable is an integer. For example, if I say int var name is the variable name. For example, in this case, I'm not to say var name, but I say fruit. So int fruit. So I have a container called fruit, which contain my fruits in this case. So I will leave like that, and then I come to the second line where I will say fruit is equals to 20. What does this mean? In the first line of this statement is that I'm saying that in the first line I am creating a variable. This is called variable declaration. Why do you say variable declaration? We say variable declaration because we are declaring that particular variable. It has nothing in it. If we are to call that variable and ask that variable, what do you have? And then we'll understand that that variable has nothing in it. So this is called variable declaration. So, and then we come to the second part of this code. This is when I can say that we have what we refer, I can say that we have what we refer it as initialization of variable. So there is how you create variable. You can declare variable and then you can come back and initialize. So initializing a variable is that you are giving that variable content. What content will that variable holds? So when we say, first of all, int, is that we are telling us that that variable will contain an integer value. So int and then the variable name. So you are telling us that this variable will contain an integer value. And what does initialization comes in? When we initialize it, we are getting that it is telling us that it has 20. So which 20 is an integer. Then we must follow, if we declare as an integer, then we must be able to follow up and show that it is really an integer. I believe up to that point we are going to understand how we declare a variable. So this is variable declaration. Yes, we say that I have a variable called fruit which contain integer values. That is declaration. Let's come to the second point. I have fruits and then it contains 20, which means that this fruit variable called fruit, it contains a number called 20, which in this case it is 20 fruits. Yes, which I believe so. Yes. So that is variable creation and variable declaration. Then we can come back and then we go to manipulate function and manipulate variable. We can come and say later, that is maybe you can change the concept, the content of that variable can come and say fruits again is equals to fruits and then plus 10. What I'm trying to understand is that it is still the same thing. What I'm trying to say is that whatever this container has, yes, we know that this container called fruits or variable called fruits has 20 fruits in it. But I'm coming back and say fruits again will contain fruits plus 10. I'm saying go whatever this container had, that is fruits, whatever it had fruits. How many fruits did we had? We had 20 of it. Then plus 10. So this particular at this point, this variable will contain 30. So the answer in this case will be 30. So it will contain 30, and that is what the value of fruit at that point. I believe how that far you are understanding something. So if I come out, I can still say fruits equals to fruits. I can still say fruits is equals to fruits plus 20. What do you understand by that? It will say, what do we have inside fruits? We have 30. So now it will go at this point. That is why we say procedural. It go at this point and find that, oh, in the latest variable we declare we initialize it to 30. So if I add now, we're saying 30 plus 20. So in this case, it will have 50. So that is how we have in variables. I believe you are getting to understand something. Let's try understand about data types. Data types. What do you understand about data types? Data types is, we say, character. Character contain 1 byte. 1 byte is equals to 8 bits. So we have character type which contain 1 byte. We have unsigned character 1 byte, short 2 bytes, unsigned short 2 bytes, integer 4 bytes, unsigned integer 4 bytes, and then we have long 8 bytes and signed long 8 bytes. So you will understand why we're saying this one as we go by. So you can say that this is a variable declaration. Type of the variable, that is what type of the variable, that is the type it will contain. It will contain integer. Will it contain character? Will it contain unsigned? So that is what you have to tell us, that this type of my variable will contain what type of characters. And then we come, for example, int I. This is what we call a variable declaration. In this case, there is nothing we have given to these particular variables. So let's come to arrays. Arrays in this case, these are also memory location. And in this case, now we are specifying what exactly can we having in this one. For example, let me give you an example. we first of all have to tell us, you have to tell us that this variable will contain what? Maybe we can say int is an integer, it's of type int. Then in this case, I will still use, okay, what can I really use? Fruits. Let me use vegetables. So let me use vegetables. Instead of saying fruits, I will use vegetable. So in this case, we understand that it is an integer. Whatever is contained in that particular variable are integers. Yes, whatever is contained there is integers. So I will say, in this case, I will specify how many will it contain, how many memory spaces will it be having. We will have, let's say, 10 spaces in that particular variables will contain 10 spaces. And then that is, at this point, is what we call variable declaration. So we have declared this variable, we have called array declaration. We have declared this array to be of type int, and it is called vegetable, and it requires 10 memory location. I only require 10 spaces. If it's to assign seats, if assuming that I'm assigning seats, for example, is an event, I need only 10 seats, yes, of people. So you can see that from this example, int array 32. So it requires only 32 memory location. Then int my array, and then you say 8 and 16. So the different way. So I will not go all through this. Allow me to jump up to functions. Function is say that function is a collection, a program is a collection of function, which means that it's a sequence of program instructions that perform a specific task, package as a unit. For example, here, return type, function name. So type param. You will understand that whatever, let me explain from this one, int function. This is the type. This function will be able to help us execute and return to us an integer value. So int func, this one is the function name. We call func is the function name. This function will be called the func function. And then what is inside these parameters, brackets, is what we call the parameters or arguments. So we have int a, it will contain a value, a variable called a. It contains a variable called, in this function again, it will contain a variable called int a. And this int a, and then it also has a character b, karak or ka b. So in this function, it will help us to have two parameters or two arguments. It will allow us to have two arguments. As I said, there's also what we call entry point is the main function. Whenever your code encounter the main function, that is where we call the entry of that code of yours. Yes, we have int. This is int. These are variable declarations. So this is int. Remember, this is a variable name called mul, and it is of type int. We have a variable called sum, and it's of type int. We have a variable called result, and it's of type int. Then we say mul is equals to a plus b. That is the sum. So it means that this variable, this one, will contain a multiplied by b. For example, I can say, I can have it as int mul, that is multiplication in that form, and then we can have int sum, we can have int result, like that. So this is what we have. This is what we are having, guys. Int result. So it will contain the sum of all this. So if I say that is declaration now, let's come to initialization. Where there's a mul is equals to now the sum of the two, that is a plus b. In this case, you say a plus b, but we don't know what is a and b. So if we come here up here and say a is equals to 2, while I'm sorry, this is initialization, yet I have not declared. So I will just say int a is equals to 2, And then, okay, this one is automatically I've declared and I've initialized it at the same time. So we can do that, it's possible. Then I'll say int b, and then is equals to 3, like that. So I have declared it and I've initialized it. So when I come to this other one like this and say mul a plus b, it means that I'm okay, not a plus b, it's multiplication. So int a multiplied by b. So that one, what will be contained in a variable called mul is the multiplication of a and b, which is 6. So this mul variable will contain 6. Then we end like that. And then we come to the second one, that is sum. What will sum contain? It will contain the addition of a plus b. So what is the addition of a plus b? It is 2 plus 3, which is 5. So the sum variable will contain 5 instead of all these alphabets. So we have another variable called result. Result will contain, let's say for example, a multiplication plus sum. What do you understand? What we have here, what will be contained in a variable called mul, and what will contain a variable called sum will be stored. The sum of the addition of both of them will be contained in result. So if the answer of this mul variable is 6 and the answer to this one is 5, so it will be 6 plus 5. So the result variable will hold 11. I believe of this far we are able to understand how variable works. Yes, so I have tried as much as I can to explain variables, and let's come to arithmetic operation, in which you have done. That is a number plus another number, a number multiplied by another number. So we can have a basic expression like this one. Int main. Remember, we say that the main function is where your code now begin to execute. You have int a, int b. We have like this: 1 plus 2 plus 3 times 4 minus 1. This expression has the value of 14. Why? How does it happen? Also, I have to understand that C programming language follow what we had like BODMAS. It has the order of operation. So let's come to this other example. Int a is equals to 12 plus 8. So whatever this variable is, whatever this container is, it will contain the sum of these two numbers. 12 plus 8 is 20. So this a, whenever next time we call a, it will not be just an a, but it will be 20, meaning that it will contain 20 in it. Okay, let's talk about affection. Affection is that you are saying that this variable contains this one. This variable is the same thing what we have done. A is equals to 1. A is equal to 2 plus 3, meaning that this variable A will contain the sum of this. This variable B will contain the sum of A plus C. So that's what we call affection. Let me go up to comparison. Comparison is you are having now variables and then you are trying to compare. Is A and B the same? Is A and B the same? Is A and C the same? Here, I have these variables of mine. Then I need to understand. What I'll say is that I will just say, here I'll say A is equals to B. A is equals to B. Is it true? So what will return as my answer is false. So that's what we call the Boolean. Able to compare. Is A and B equals? And then say, no, it is not equal. So it will return to me false. If I ask my compiler, print for me A is equals to B. So what will it print to me? It will print for me false. Why? It's able to execute and try to compare the two variables A and B. Are they the same? Do they contain the same value? And then it says no, it does not contain the same value. So it will return to me a false. Yes, so we have comparison statement. We have A plus B is greater than D. Is that true? A we have not been given, so we don't know. So this is what we are less than. We are trying to comparison is we have less than to check if it's less than, less or equal, equals to, greater than, greater, different than, meaning that not equal. Then we come to logical operators, and, or not, get. So this one, we talk about or. Or get is that trying to tell us that it's either one point is true or the other is or the other one. So it's either one of them is true. For example, if I say that it's either A is greater than B, or in this case I will write or like this, or A is equals to B. So it's either, if A is greater than B, fine. If A is equal to B, fine. So it check one of them. If one of them is true, it will print for me what I need. So this is what I will not go much in this, but I will explain when we talk about the if-else statement. So allow me to jam all this. Comma operator, then this one size of. So we say, when you say size of int, int you know is how many bytes? It's 4 bytes. So it will return when we ask when we write a program that says size of int, and then we return for us 4. Why? Because int contain 4 bytes. When you say size of C, we don't know C is a character, so it will print for us 1 because it is a character. Character is of type and I can have only 1 byte. So control structures when we talk about now the if else and if else statement. So what we are trying to say is that if one statement, so you have to understand that if condition is true, then execute something. If condition is true, execute something. Let me remove this. So I will just say if A is greater than B, so it checked. Remember, this is a comparison operator. If A is greater than B, what does it do? If A is greater than B, you open that bracket and tell us that print for us. You have to print and say A is greater than B. If that is true, so it will only print for us that A is greater than B if it finds that it is true that A is greater than B. Else, it will not print anything. So that is called it's checking the expression. It's able to tell us that is this particular statement true. If it's true, A is greater than B, then it print for us A is greater than B. Then what about if we don't have that one? If we get something different, for example, we have our A is 2, and then we have our B is 3. Now that if that is the case, now how will it be? We have our A is 2 and B is 3. So how will this one print? What will be printed here? We know that nothing in this case will be printed. So we need to specify. So in this point, we are making our code to make its own decision. So in this case, we can say now else. If A is not greater than B, else what do you do next? Else print for us. What do you do? Printf like this. And what are you printing for us? You are printing for us something different. Let's say B is greater than A. Because one thing, if A is not greater than B, then obviously B will be greater than A. Is that true? Yes, because if A, we are checking is A greater than B? No, it is only B who is greater than A. So the statement in the first place is that if A is greater than B, then it will print B is greater than if it is true A is greater than B, it will print A is greater than B. Else, if it is not, it will print for us B is greater than A. I believe at that point I've tried to give you a scenario, but let's assume we have a scenario, we have more than one statement, we have more than one condition to test. Assuming we have more than one condition to test. So assuming here I create a variable, allow me to create a variable here on top and say, I will say let me just say int grades of student. What the student score is equals to, okay, I'm just saying is equals to 0. And then in this point I will have, okay, let me say int 0, and then I will check. In this case, okay, it's not making sense, but I'm trying as much as can to bring in another perspective whereby it may be just imagining you are creating a grading system where it grades students based on the marks they score. So I will use this one and say, I will come here and say if my grades, if whatever student score, in this case grades, which is marks, if grades is greater than 70, let me say it's greater than 70, and then this student, I will say that this student, the grade will be printed out is print f like this, and then print for us A. So this student score an A like that. Then I close that one like that, and then I say else if. Okay, now this another thing comes in, if it's more than one condition. So it's not a condition, so say else if. It is not only else, I'm saying else if. Now we are giving another condition. If grades now it is greater than 70, it is have to print A. What about if A is greater than 60, meaning that it is not greater than 70 but is in between 60 and 70? What will student score as the grade? Then we'll say print f, and what are we printing? We are saying print the grade of student to be B. So this student has not scored an A, but he or she scored a B because the grade is between 60 and 70. Else if the student grades is greater than 50, meaning that it is above 50 but less than 60. That's what it means. Above 50 but less than 60. If the student grade is above 50, then what can we do? Then we have to, okay, I wrote something wrong. Okay, don't mind about my code, it might be wrong, but I'm just trying to explain the concept of if-else statement. So if now it's greater than 50, if the student grade is greater than 50, then what are we doing? We are printing that the student scored a C. So what we are printing is that we print C. We print C. That is if student grade is above 50. So we print C. Else, we can go from there. Now we can call it a D. So that is let me say one more. Else if grades is above 40, then we can say that the student has print the student scored a D like that. So we can say that the student scored a D if he get anything above 40, between 40 and 50. And then we say else, what are we saying? Else print, so if now the student does not meet all of this, then we say print f And then in this case we say fail. So the student has failed, like that. So it will execute. What will happen is that it will execute the first one. It will say, in the first one, I have a grade. So the grade is 0. If the student gets above 70, is scored an A. If it's not 70, is not above 70, but he or she is above 50, above 60, but not above 70, is between 60 and 70, this student is supposed to score a B. If it's above 50 but less than 60, this student is supposed to score a C. And if the grade is above 40 but less than 50, this student is supposed to score a D. So else anything is fail. So in that case, we have to specify the maximum. So in this case, I will come here where we have grades. If grades, here I will have if grades is greater than 70, and I will use this one to test two parameters, and also grades is less than 100. Remember, score must be less than 100. So if grades is above 70 and grade is also less than 100, then that student scores an A. I believe to this point you have been able to understand the if-else statement or the console structure. While loop also is almost the same thing, but in this case, we have initialized I to 0. Then while I is less than 98, in as long as this particular I will be less than 98, then I, variable this one, will be that and then we increase. So let me come to this point. I may try to explain you the last thing, because I don't want to make it so long. So we are saying that if we are having, for example, grade. Okay, let me say, let's assume that we have a function, we are creating what is counting to help us count numbers. If I say number, that is, I have to create a variable called int num or number. I call it, that's my variable name, int number, like that. And then I give the value of my number to be 0, like that. And then I will come and say while, meaning in as much as that particular number, while num is less than, maybe for example 10, like that, then what will happen? In as much as is less than 10, then I will have to say num is equals to num plus 1. So it will, in as much as I will say that one, I will say in as much as less than 10, I will say num is equals to num plus 1. Okay, no, let me not to do this way. Let me call it int result, so that I will use the result. So that I will use result in this case. I will come here, and instead of saying num, I will just come and say my result. I want to sum the sum of numbers between 1 to 10. So I will say my result will be num plus 1. Num plus 1, no, it will be result plus 1. Like this, whatever we have in that result. So result we have already, we have 0. So it doesn't have anything. So let me initialize it at the top here and say that it has 0. So that we know that that is a starting point. So it will say while number is less than 10, then result is equal to result plus 1, meaning that whatever result that is 0 plus 1. Then how do you do that? Then we say num, and then we plus, like that. Then do that way, and then we come to the end. So we come to the end of that one. So now that you have achieved that one, then that is now okay. So it will run this one in as much as this one is less than 10. So it will come and find it is 0, and then it add another 1. So num plus, so it will be 1. 1, if check 1 is less than 10, no, yes. then we'll say result, which is we have already had 1, so it will say 1 plus 1, which is 2. So our result will contain 2. It will go back and then increase 1. It will go back. It is num is now 2. So 2 is 2 less than 10? Yes. Then we'll come and say result, which we already asked 2. 2 plus 1, which is 3. So our result will contain 3. And then increase again, num will go to 3. 3 is less than 10? Yes, it is less than 10. Come, result. A result which we already had 3 plus 1. So plus 1, our result will contain 4. And then also add again num, that is adding 1. Then go back there, it will get also 4. Is 4 greater than 10? Like that. It will continue as much as the condition is true. So when the condition is no longer true, then it will exit. I believe this point I'm able to help you understand all this what I'm explaining. So let me stop there. I will try as much explain more content. I will just ask if in case you find anything also you find that you don't understand, please request there in the chat and chat there. Then whatever what you need, you feel like we need to tackle, please do it on the chat below, so that we'll get back to you. We'll create another video that will try to address what you are asking us to do. We are here for your service every other time. So welcome for another video that is coming. So for this case, I believe that I've given you an overview of what a variable is, how variable you're using variable in control structure, that is if else, while loop, and many which I've not handled, that is 4. But in as time will allow me, I will cover it in the later day. But in case you want something to be covered today, maybe you can just request there on the chat. Thank you very much for your time. See you next time. Will be handling task.